Hi everyone, I'm Nicole with Titans of CNC Academy, and in this video I'm going to show you how to program the TITAN-2M for the Tormach. To begin, we need to set up our stock, so to do that we're going to come up to Setup, and we want to change our orientation to select Z-axis plane and X-axis. We're going to use this top face for our Z-axis and this back edge for our X. Next, we need to change our origin to model box point, and with model point highlighted blue, we're going to select this back left edge. The next thing we need to do is go to our stock tab, and we need to make sure our mode is set to relative size box, and we're going to change our stock offset mode to add stock to all sides. I'm going to add 0.05 to our X and 0.025 to our Y. I'm going to do 0.23 for our negative Z offset and 0.02 for our positive Z offset. So your dimensions should show 5.1 by 2 by 1. And we'll go ahead and click OK. The next thing we need to do is face our part. So to do that, we're going to come up to 2D and down to face. We're going to select our tool from the building blocks library, and we're going to use that 1.5 inch face mill that we created in the TITAN-2M video. I'm going to change my RPM to 4,000 and our cutting feed rate to 20. I'm just going to change all of these to 20, and we're going to move on to our geometry tab. I don't really need to select anything in here, so let's just go straight to heights. In here we need to change everything to model top. And now we can move to our passes tab. In here I'm going to change my pass direction to 180 degrees, my pass extension 0.76, and my step over is going to be 1.4. The direction I'm going to set to climb. And then I'm going to move on to our linking tab. In here, I'm not really going to change too much. I am going to turn off our lead in and our lead out and click OK. The next thing we need to do is rough out our part. So to do that, I'm going to come up to 3D and we're going to go down to adaptive clearing. In here, I want to select our tool from the library. We're actually going to be using a 1/2 inch flat end mill this time. And we'll click OK. I'm going to do 4,000 RPM and I'm going to do a 25 inch per minute feed rate. We'll do our lead in and lead out 25. I'm going to do 15 for our ramp and our plunge. I don't really need to select anything in geometry, so I'm just going to leave this and move on to our heights tab. In here, I want to change everything to model top. And our bottom height offset is going to be negative 0.77. In our passes tab, I want to change our optimal load to 0.025. And I'm going to change our maximum roughing step down to 0.8. I'm going to select the box that says flat area detection. And I'm going to change our stock to leave to 5 thou. Next, we'll move over to our linking tab. In here, I want to change our retraction policy to minimum retraction. We're going to change our stay down level to 70%. And I'm going to change our ramp type to plunge. And we'll set an entry position in this corner along this edge here. And click OK. So the next thing we need to do is finish the outer profile of our part. So to do that, we're going to come up to 2D and down to 2D contour. Now we're going to be using that same 1/2 inch flat end mill, but I am going to change our feed rate to 20 inches per minute. I'm just going to change them all to 20. In geometry, I do want to select this outer profile on the bottom here. And in our heights tab, we just want to make everything model top again. Our bottom height offset is going to be -0.77. And then we can move on to our passes tab. In here, I want to change our compensation type to wear. And we can actually add in a finishing overlap of 10 thou. Next, in our linking tab, the only thing I really want to change here is just going to be the lead-in sweep angle. We'll make that 45 degrees. And we'll go ahead and add an entry position, same one as last time in this edge here. Next, we'll click OK. Now the next thing we need to do now that we've finished the outside of our part is finish our pockets. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this contour. I'm just going to right click it, click duplicate, and then I'm going to right click the new one and hit edit. I'm going to use the same feeds and speeds and the same end mill, so I'll leave that alone. I'm going to move on to our geometry tab and I'm going to close the current contour selection. So I want to select the right edge of each of our pockets here. You'll notice when I select one of them, it wraps around this radius here, but it doesn't select this one. So to select it, I'm just going to click that line again and it should highlight light blue. Now we can edit the contour. I'm going to select this radius that I want to add and then hit the little plus button that says accept current contour. And then I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side. Perfect. Now with those selected, I can move on to our heights tab. Everything's already set to model top. I do want to change our bottom height offset here. We're just going to change it to selection, and I'm going to select this face, and I want to change our offset to 0. Next, in the passes tab, there's not really much I need to change. I don't want a finish overlap here, and I actually want to add in roughing passes. We do want our step over to be 0.25, and now we can move on to our linking tab. There's not really anything in here I'm going to change. I do want to get rid of our entry position though. After I close that, I'm going to click OK. So the next thing we need to do is the other side of our pocket. So it's going to be the exact same thing, only on the other side. So we're just going to duplicate this. I'm going to right click, click duplicate, right click edit, and we're going to change our geometry. I want to remove the current contour, and we're going to have the same problem on this side. So I want to go ahead and select the line, select it again, add our radius, and click accept. Perfect. Now we'll move on to our heights tab. Everything looks good in here already. I don't really need to change anything. We'll move on to our passes tab. In here, I need to uncheck roughing passes. We don't need to do that extra pass. Everything else looks good. Linking tab, don't need to change anything in here. Go ahead and click OK. So the next thing we need to do is chamfer the top edges of our part. So to do that, we're going to come up to 2D and down to 2D chamfer. Now we're going to select our tool. In our library, it's going to be the 3/8 chamfer. Go ahead and select OK. We are going to run it at 4,000 RPM with a cutting feed rate of 20 inches per minute. I'm just going to go ahead and change all of these to 20. And in our geometry tab, I want to select the top edges of our part. You just have to make sure, since the chamfer is modeled in, that we select the very top edge and not this bottom contour here. So if we were to select the bottom one, it would definitely mess it up. There we go. Now in our heights tab, we just want to change everything to model top. Now we can move on to our passes tab, and I want to change our compensation type to wear. And we're going to actually change our chamfer width to 0 since the chamfer is modeled in. If it wasn't modeled in, I would add the width, but since it is, it's just going to be 0. The tip offset, we're going to do 0.05, and I'll go ahead and just leave the chamfer clearance in there. That's good. Move on to our linking tab. In here, I want to change our horizontal lead-in to 0.075. Our angle, I'm going to do 45, and then I'm going to change our vertical lead-in radius to 0. And we'll click OK. The next thing we need to do is chamfer the bottom edges of our pocket. So to do that, I'm just going to duplicate this last toolpath, right click duplicate, right click edit, and we're going to use that same tool, same feeds and speeds, so that's all good. In geometry, I do want to remove our current contour selection, and I'm just going to select the 4 edges of our pockets here. In our heights tab, I am going to change our bottom height from selection, and I just want to select the bottom face of our pocket, and now we can move on to our passes tab. In here, I do want to add a chamfer width since it's not modeled in I'm just going to do 5 thou. Our chamfer tip offset, I'm going to do 0.125. And our chamfer clearance, I'm just going to do 0.02. And in our linking tab, there's not really anything I need to change. I'm just going to leave that alone and click OK. The next thing we need to do is spot drill all of our holes. So to do that, we're going to come up to drilling, select drill, and we're going to use that 3/8 chamfer. So I'm going to leave it in there. It's going to be 4,000 RPM with a 20 inch per minute cutting feed rate. And we're going to move on to our geometry tab. We want to make sure our hole mode is set to selected faces, and with our hole faces highlighted blue, I'm just going to select one of these holes here. Next, I want to make sure the box that says select same diameter is checked. And now we can move to our heights tab. All of these need to be changed to model top. And our bottom height offset is going to be -0.1375. And we're going to change our cycle type to deep drilling with a full retract. And I'm just going to do our peck depth of 0.04 and click OK. Now we need to drill all of our holes, so I'm actually just going to duplicate that last toolpath. So right click, duplicate, and right click, edit. Now I need to change our tool. We want a drill. So in the library, we're going to use the 0.2283 drill and click OK. 4,000 with a 16 inch per minute. That's perfect. Our geometry is already selected, so I don't need to do anything there. In our heights tab, the only thing I really need to do is change our bottom height offset to -0.65. In our cycle tab, I'm going to change our cycle type to chip breaking with a partial retract. I want to do our pecking depth of 0.075, our minimum pecking depth 0.05, our accumulated pecking depth is going to be 1 inch, and we'll do a chip bake distance of 0.01 and click OK. Now the last thing we need to do is tap all of our holes, so we're going to go ahead and duplicate that last toolpath again. And right click, edit. And we're going to change our tool. We're going to use the 1/4-20 tap and click OK. We're going to change our RPM to 550. Our holes are already selected, so I don't need to do anything in the geometry tab. In our heights tab, I do need to change our bottom height offset to -0.5. And in our cycle tab, I'm going to change our cycle type to right tapping. And we'll click OK. This part is now finished being programmed. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.